Let's bring in SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Unbelievable scenes that we've seen, Ms. Sophie, over the past couple of hours, which speaks to not all being well within Russia. You've got this Wagner Group now, and Trent describes them as having control of a significant part of what could possibly tilt Russia's continuing efforts of what's taking place in Ukraine.
I don't want to lie, Griselda, since we started covering this story yesterday, when I saw the signs, I was taken aback. In fact, I was paralyzed. I didn't know what to say and how to analyze this whole thing. But what I do know is that this is a serious matter. And as Trent pointed out, it doesn't only speak to instability within Russia, it touches on the war in Ukraine, but even us on the continent. And I think every head of state and government around the world is watching these developments, whether this will be perhaps a way to find some space to negotiate and bring an end to the war in Ukraine, because this is a strategic position. This is a front line, and now front line is rebelling. Now you have NATO that is supporting Ukraine. There's no way right now they are not talking. We might not be privy to the information behind the scenes, but I can tell you as we speak, NATO and the United States of America are watching these developments and looking at how they can perhaps use this moment to ensure that you bring an end to the war in Ukraine. On the other hand, President Putin is fully aware that this will weaken his resolve to continue with the war in Ukraine. Now, this is where Africa is coming in. A week ago, you had our leaders in Ukraine and in Russia. They are also watching these developments because, remember, they did promise that they will go back to Ukraine and to Russia. Now, are you going to fly to Russia with this latest development? You are also looking at the Africa-Russia summit that is supposed to take place in July in St. Petersburg. And now will Russia continue with those engagements? So this is a huge, huge international story, the geopolitics again taking center stage.
If we look at part of what President Putin said in that address to his nation, is, he says this is treason and that he will take action against, those that are responsible for what has been described as a rebellion. Talk to us about what else he said. Speaking to Trent, I asked him whether this is any sign of a sense of unease on the part of the Russian president, given that he had to go on national television to address what we're seeing.
Well, President Putin is a veteran leader in terms of military precision and the body language he always projects when he's under siege. And this morning, he did the same. He was very calm and almost like not really worried about what's happening. But the fact that he had to wake up and speak to the nation about this issue, because this issue has been there. This group has been complaining for quite a long time now. This tension has been simmering, and only the generals of Russia were dealing with this matter. Finally, he is now in charge, firmly in charge in terms of talking about this issue. That speaks to this matter is serious. Two, he didn't mention the leader of this group because this guy has got strong military information, military intelligence in relation to the Russia's capability, be it your normal military capability or the nuclear capabilities. And it is in the region where you have these nuclear capabilities of Russia. And therefore, you cannot just treat him roughly. Yesterday, the generals made an appeal to the group to arrest him because, as President Putin has pointed out, for him it is treason because you are rebelling against the army. And therefore, it is a serious matter, but typical President Putin, a Gestapo, he is projecting that body that I'm still firmly in charge. I have analyzed the danger, I've analyzed the threat, I know you guys, foreign forces, you may want to take advantage.
But how in charge? Because, as our colleague in Germany correctly pointed out, this is the center, or actually the main area where we're talking about this, this war pertaining to Russia and Ukraine. That is exactly the part that they've captured, which could tilt this war anyway. So it's certainly cause for concern. And when you say that, President Putin is treading carefully on how he deals with the general, we're talking about calls for arrest already, which could certainly tilt this either way.
Yes, of course. And as I pointed out earlier on when I was speaking to Lebu on Morning Live, the problem is we know that Russia itself, it's not united. We know that you have people who are not supporting President Putin. And therefore, this is a moment to kind of assess how much support he has. And as Trent has pointed out, you would expect that you will hear more voices supporting him. It's still quiet because everybody is now assessing this situation. Even those people who are not supporting President Putin within Russia are now looking at the opportunity to use this moment to try and make their voices heard. And between now and late evening and tomorrow going forward, it is a very, very fluid story. And I think Putin is fully aware that this is no child's play now.
I mean, what can we expect over the next couple of hours apart from reaction that Trent has already spoken about, NATO and, other global bodies? What can we expect over the next couple of hours?
I expect the Americans to respond to this. And I also expect Africa to be on, looking at this matter. As we pointed out, that when you look at West Africa, those countries in West Africa, the countries that experienced coup recently, the coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, Central Africa, Sudan, where you have Wagner forces helping the military in those countries, the military that is in charge right now, they are also shivering where they are.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. We appreciate it. SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena.